Hello students. Today we will solve a simple practical problem which each of you may encounter in life sooner or later. And to solve it, we will use all the tools we've learned: conditions, loops, arrays, functions, and everything else. The essence is as follows. If we take the range of natural numbers from 1 to 10 and write down all numbers divisible by 3 or 5, the sum of these numbers will be 23. So, today we will write a function that will calculate the sum of numbers divisible by two chosen values within a given range. Let's get started. We'll create an array of type integer. We'll only save values that pass the check numbers divisible by 3 or 5 into this array. Let's name the array multiples. We'll connect a loop with a counter to the space key and specify the repetition range from 1 to 10. We don't need 0, and the loop will be terminated at index 10. So, we'll be able to get indices of iterations from 1 to 9 on the index channel. We'll add a gate block and check all indices for divisibility. In the first check, we'll compare the remainder of dividing the index by 3 with 0. We'll copy the condition, paste it below, and connect it to the false channel of the first check. We'll change the divisor to 5. Now we need a merge block. We'll merge the true channels from both checks. And we'll store the value that passed the check in our array. We'll take an array add block, connect it to the array getter, and the loop index channel. For clarity, after the loop ends, we'll output the resulting array to the console. We'll connect a print block to the done channel. And for even more clarity, we'll format the false channel in the second check. If the tested value didn't pass both checks, we'll output a message to the console: the tested number is not divisible by 3 or 5. We'll connect a print block to the false channel. To print to the console, we'll use string concatenation. We'll add 3 slots. In the first slot, we'll write number, then add a space to prevent the values from merging. We'll connect the loop repeat index to the second slot and add a space followed by the phrase not divisible by 3 or 5 to the third slot. Let's see what we've got. In the first iteration, the loop will send the number 1 for checking. The remainder of dividing it by 3 will be 1. Since 1 is not equal to 0, the first number fails the first check and the false channel triggers, sending the index for the second check. The remainder of dividing 1 by 5 will also be 1. Since 1 is not equal to 0 again, the second check also fails. The false channel triggers again, and all that happens in this iteration is printing a message to the console saying that the number 1 is not divisible by 3 or 5. Let's dwell on this for a moment. Many of you might be wondering why the remainder of dividing 1 by 3 is suddenly 1. I'll explain now. The remainder of division is the whole part that cannot be further divided by the divisor. And if we multiply the obtained quotient by the divisor and then add the remainder of the division, the result should be the original number, that is, the dividend. For example, dividing 9 by 2, the whole part will be 4, and 1 will remain as a remainder. Let's check. 2 times 4 equals 8. Adding 1, we get 9. Everything adds up. Now, in our example, when trying to divide 1 by 3, the whole part will be 0. Consequently, the remainder will be 1. Let's check. 3 times 0 equals 0. Adding 1, we get 1. That's it. Let's move on to the next iteration. Now the tested value will be 2. Number 2 will also fail both checks, so the second iteration will end with printing a message to the console. But in the third iteration, the tested number will be 3, which will pass the first check and will be immediately added to the array. Let's finally launch the console and press the space key. We see a beautiful picture. The list of numbers that didn't pass the check ends with the formed array of the required values. Now all that's left is to add up all the elements of the obtained array. After outputting the array to the console, we'll connect a new loop. This time we need an array loop block. This block will take the array and return all its elements, one by one, through the value channel, regardless of its length. To store the sum, let's create an integer variable. Let's name it sum. By default, the value is 0. Inside the loop, we take the current element of the array, add it to the current value of the sum variable, and overwrite the result to the sum variable. After the loop ends, we print the final value of the sum variable to the console. Let's run the console. Press space. Now, among other things, we have the number 23. This is the sum of all values, divisible by 3 or 5, within the range up to 10. Now let's optimize the code. Let's divide the code into two functions. In the first function, we'll populate the array with suitable values, and in the second one, we'll compute the sum. Let's split these two blocks for now. Let's highlight the first part and create a group of nodes by pressing the Create Group button. Let's define the inputs. The first channel will carry the control signal. Let's connect it to the loop block. Let's add 2 more channels. Connect them to the From and To channels on the loop block. The channels will automatically get good names, so we don't need to change them. I also want the ability to change the values for divisibility testing. So, let's add 2 more arguments and connect them to blocks checking for remainders instead of values 3 and 5. It's better to rename these channels to multiple 1 and multiple 2. We just need to add 1 more argument. This is our array. These 2 getters are redundant here. So instead of them, we simply drag 2 wires from the new channel. If we connect the first wire to the array channel on the array add block, then the new channel will be assigned a suitable name, and we don't need to change it. Connect the second cable from the same channel to the print block. Remove the getters and proceed to the output. And we only need to output the control signal after this function is executed. This will happen after the Done channel triggers on the loop block and the array is output to the console. So let's connect this chain to the output. The channel name basically corresponds to its purpose, so there's no need to rename it. And to unload the console, let's remove the message that the number didn't pass the check, because soon more numbers will be added. The first function is ready. Press Ctrl Tab to go up a level. Let's try calling the obtained function. Connect the space key to the input channel. Set the range of values to search from 1 to 10. The next 2 fields are the numbers for divisibility testing. Let's input 3 and 5 there. Connect the last channel to the array that we'll populate with the needed values. Press Ctrl S to save the project. Now let's run the console, press space, and see that the function works. If something goes wrong, Don't rush to find the error. From the last lesson, you should remember that groups of nodes have a slight drawback. Sometimes, to apply changes within the group, you need to restart the project. So save the file, close it, reopen it, and run the function call again. By the way, the quickest way to restart is like this. In the File menu, select Revert and confirm by pressing the Revert button. If after all this, it still doesn't work, then yes, go back to the code and find the error. But if everything is fine, then let's move on. Highlight the second code block where we compute the sum. Turn it into a group. We'll need two channels at the input block. Connect the first one to the input channel on the array loop block, the second one to the array channel on the same block. And logic suggests we should create a third channel for the variable, but unfortunately, we can't access variables located at a higher level outside the group. Therefore, the block with the sum variable should be inside the group. It's no longer needed outside. Inside, instead of 3, we can leave 1. Connect it to the necessary blocks. Now connect the end of the loop to the output. That's it. Let's go outside. Connect the new function to the first one. Connect our array to the array channel. For complete happiness, let's give the functions understandable names. Let's call the first function createArray and the second one getSum. Additionally, we can change the color of the blocks. I like to color all functions in yellow. Let's save the project. Reload. Run the console. And we see the correct answer, 23. Excellent. Now we have the ability to call the function with any parameters. Let's increase the range of values to 1000. Now in the console, we see a huge array and the sum of all elements divisible by 3 and 5, 233,168. Let's change the divisibility test, for example, to 7 and 12. We get 107,359. Enjoy! See you soon. Goodbye.